I didn't really think indie hacker drama was possible. I mean, it's such a small group of nerdy programmers. What could there possibly be to start drama around? But lo and behold, as if things couldn't get any worse from last week, Marc is under a ton of attacks on Twitter from what he calls a witch hunt of people that have found a ton of security vulnerabilities across multiple of his products. And just like I mentioned last week, he's not taking things very well. In fact, he started blocking people on Twitter. And we'll eventually get to all of that, but I wanted to make this video cataloging the entire situation of what is going on from start to finish. And I was gonna wait a bit longer before I made the video, but so many things are just happening constantly that I figured now is as good a time as any. And I'm ashamed to say that I've spent an ungodly amount of time cataloging this entire situation. And basically everyone in the indie hacking community is either on the side of bashing Marc or bashing the people that are bashing Marc. And if you don't know, Marc is one of the most idolized indie hackers in the scene, and an indie hacker is just someone that makes micro SaaSes and tries to make money from it, having grown a very sizable Twitter following as well as a YouTube following in a short amount of time, just talking about things like how, you know, he made $131,000 in a single month from his products. And what products, you ask? Well, the majority of his revenue comes from this product called ShipFast, a boilerplate because he was launching so many SaaSes that he decided to make for himself, and then he ended up launching it for around $200, so other indie hackers that also wanted to make money from coding could just buy his template, have everything set up, and just create a SaaS and try to start making money from it. He's also been extremely vocal about how much money he makes, so you can see, for example, in the highest peak months, he made like $125,000 in a single month from this $200 template. And as you can see, the majority of his other products don't really make any money compared to it, so like 99% of his revenue comes from ShipFast. And just to fully get you guys all up to speed, I covered this a bit in my last video, but he's been a bit of a controversial figure just because he's built a big following and made a lot of money talking about how to make micro SaaSes, but his most popular micro SaaS is one that is aimed at other people to sort of use for their own micro SaaSes instead of like a brand new business that had nothing to do with what he was talking about, which a lot of people found very guru-esque. And the majority of what you are about to see today all started because he made this one tweet. Essentially, a couple of people found a vulnerability on his boilerplate, and when they reached out to him, one of them he fixed privately, and the other one he fixed privately but decided to give the guy $300 via PayPal. Which, I mean, some big companies don't even give people that find vulnerabilities and bugs on their site anything, so $300 is definitely better than nothing. But I think when people saw this post, first of all, a lot of people called him out because it was a bit of like a sales LinkedIn bro humble brag type of post, like, yeah, this guy found my vulnerability, so I gave him $300, which a lot of people saw as sort of in bad taste. And if you ask me, I think this one tweet, this one individual post was like the iceberg that sunk the Titanic, the straw that broke the camel's back, the tipping point, if you will. Because you see, once Twitter realized that there were vulnerabilities lurking around in this code base, being the sharks that they are, they smelt that blood in the water and they chose to have an absolute feeding frenzy with this product. And that is where today's second main character comes in, Simon. You see, Simon was already a bit critical about the whole boilerplate business model, and it took him about a day to investigate before he found another glaring vulnerability. This time it was with how the mailgun webhook was implemented. Basically, anyone could call the webhook and it didn't do any API validation whatsoever. And while the ShipFast TOS pretty much mentions that they're absolved from any liability when it comes to any vulnerabilities and stuff like that, and somebody that bought the template should sort of be looking at these things anyways, chances are a lot of people just chose to use this template and not look at how it was implemented, because otherwise what's the point of buying a template in the first place if you're not trying to just use it and move fast with it? I mean, that's sort of how the entire product is marketed in the first place. And some Marc fanboys came out of the woodwork saying things like, why didn't you open a PR into the repo instead of publicly sharing this information? And to that, Simon mentioned that he has no access to the repository. Why would he ever buy something for $200 like this? And our boy Luca here responded with a question that's going to become very, very relevant later on in this story. Pretty much, how did he get access to the code then if he doesn't have access to the repository to make a PR for it? So yeah, just keep that in mind. Other people came out saying, why are you shitting on people in public? Are you just doing this to engagement farm? To which Simon was like, listen, he's not answering my DMs, and you know, this is something that people pay $200 for and is building their entire business off of, so it sort of makes sense to share something like this publicly if the person that created it isn't answering any DMs or emails about it. And this is where the tide sort of started turning on Marc, because a lot of people came out of the woodwork and started saying some more rational things. Some people even making funny shitpost dunks on Marc, like Dave, who was the star of last week's video, who made an entire website called Security Fast, mocking the name of ShipFast, where the entire site is just this giant shitpost about how launching things with Marc ShipFast is completely unsecure. And that prompted even more people to start coming out and sharing some more shady marketing things that Marc has done. Like, for example, if you go to the ShipFast ShipFast landing page, you'll see that they have a $100 discount automatically applied only for the first 4,920 customers. You know, one of those classic calls to action salesly, buy now or you're gonna miss out on this awesome discount type of things, which as you can see, as of making this video, it's still there, except it's updated to 4,940 customers. So yeah, obviously this is just some fucking marketing gimmick. And additionally, on his indie pages leaderboard, which is essentially just a big giant circle jerk leaderboard of how much money did you make this month, where you can join the leaderboard with your SaaS, he apparently had this little tooltip that would say get ShipFast in order to join the leaderboard, but you didn't actually need to buy ShipFast to get on the leaderboard. You only had to use the indie pages site to do that, not actually buy a separate product, which again is sort of misleading. And look, I get it, it's a classic marketing tactic, but it's sort of weird when you advocate a lot for shipping fast and indie hacking and your audience is literally the same people that you make money off of, and then you sort of employ these sort of sketchy sales tactics on the same people that you are literally selling the code to, that when they get the boilerplate, that sort of sales tactic-y code is going to be on there in the first place. Sort of just feels like he's slapping his users in his face and shitting where he eats. And I think this is where things started snowballing a bit out of control, because after that, Simon found yet another security vulnerability where anyone could bypass the front-end validation on the indie pages site for their username and just send a request straight to the server with whatever username they wanted. So the validation was only on the front end. And of course, when he pointed this out, more people came out of the indie hacking build in public zeitgeist to say, hey, why can't you just ship stuff, man? Go make money, go ship stuff. Why are you talking about this guy's vulnerabilities? Who cares? If you found an issue, just DM him about it and let him take care of it. There's no need to publicly expose them. Marc Liu even responded to this in a bit of a cheeky way, saying, congrats, you managed to add characters to your own username. Like, great. Good job, buddy. And Simon retorted back, thanks, where should I send my PayPal address, you know, for the $300 like he gave the last guy. And I guess this is where things started going balls to the walls here, because Simon posted a screenshot of him getting access to ShipFast, and somebody's like, hey, does this mean he got back to you? And Simon was like, nope, I actually invited myself to the repository. And turns out he found a way to just bypass ShipFast's entire payment system and just get access for free. And in his response to everyone saying, why didn't you just DM Marc about it? Why'd you have to go public with it? He actually did send an email to Marc talking about this vulnerability and got no response after 42 hours, only to eventually finally get a response from Marc saying, hey, that's a good find, but you know, I don't really care that much because a lot of people reshare the code for free anyways. I prefer not to work with cheap customers anyways. They don't get good results. I appreciate your hard work, sir. Just to go ahead and block Simon on Twitter. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Like, what is going on here? I understand that security vulnerabilities happen, and the whole idea behind indie hacking is shipping fast, breaking things, all that good stuff. But the entire way that Marc Liu has handled this situation turned it into such a bigger thing than it needed to be. And to like pour salt on the wound, some guy that runs a ShipFast fan account, like an affiliate account that's not, you know, related to Marc Liu whatsoever. I guess because ShipFast has this like insane affiliate program that everyone likes participating in, trying to get other people to buy it, went ahead and took a bunch of digs at Simon, saying that he's just shit posting for the sake of engagement farming. Like, this entire thing is just so stupid, but it keeps on getting worse. Like I mentioned, sharks in a feeding frenzy. A bunch of people found more vulnerabilities across a wide amount of his actual products. Like, for example, his launch viral product, a lot of people found a similar workaround where you don't have to pay to access the entire course, mentioning that he emailed the security vulnerability to him 6 days ago and there's been no response or attempt to fix it, even going so far as to call it an intern level mistake. Additionally, more people realized how to do this whole exploit and started getting shipped fast for free, and someone even wrote a write-up on how to actually do the exact exploit that they published, because they said it was probably fixed by Marc Liu, but I'm not going to show it on video, of course. And while most people were able to detach their brains from the zeitgeist that is ship fast, make money, me want see number go up, a lot of people just couldn't wrap their head around what was going on, and saying that all these people were posting these because they were engagement farming and just envy of the success of others. Like, while you guys are fighting over Marc, I just made some sales. Selling while yapping is a skill very few possessed. Follow me to learn how to do it. What the actual fuck? I don't understand how some people could be so in like the fucking matrix of I need to make money that they look at security vulnerabilities that literally thousands of users are going to experience with their SaaSes that they created, and your only response to that is I made a couple sales while all you guys were yapping about this big thing that I guess doesn't really affect me, or maybe it does because I bought ShipFast but I just don't care or something. And a bunch of other indie hackers started blocking Simon for simply pointing pointing out these security vulnerabilities, even though they have no interaction with him literally like whatsoever. And it doesn't even end here. Like the situation gets even worse. Like in one of his newer products, DataFast, people were able to access other users' information. And apparently there was another vulnerability in ShipFast itself that allowed you to see people's email and their revenue that Marc Liu actually ended up fixing. But still, the fact that 4,000 sort of businesses or people have bought this and their data was just being exposed for God knows how long is insane. And that brings us to two tweets that Marc Liu put out in response to this situation, and they were not really good at all. The first one starts off by saying, "I was a virgin an hour ago. I never blocked anyone after 3 years on Twitter, but my feed in the past 30 days is made up of developers who think the world can be fixed by more tests. Dozens of people try to screw my sites every day, and they claim a critical vulnerability issue because they could bypass a paywall or add special characters to their username. So fuck it. I block people who yap instead of shipping. I want to see posts of indie makers who build and print money keep shipping." What? First of all, not every single fucking Twitter post has to be structured like a LinkedIn bro sales pitch. And secondly, some of these are security data vulnerabilities, right? Like being able to access other people's information is something that's really fucking serious. And especially if some people aren't getting responses for like over 42 hours after pointing these vulnerabilities out, like what else are they supposed to do other than go public with the information? This is your product that you are charging people $200 for access. These people are trying to point out your security vulnerabilities. The response is not to throw a temper tantrum on Twitter and start blocking people for yapping instead of shipping. Like, I think we've taken this indie hacker ship mentality a bit too far at this point. And for the first time, I think in history, Twitter finally was able to agree on something in the comment section, because a lot of people came out and actually called him out for how much of a bad take this is. Like, most people realize if you are selling a product whose main purpose is to be like a boilerplate that does payment stuff, and the boilerplate itself can't even secure its own payments, like what does that mean for everyone else that's building on top of the boilerplate? There are actual security issues in your app and you block the person highlighting them. Fix the issues instead of complaining. Some unsolicited advice: you're getting a ton of free QA right now. Take it on the chin and make your product better. Stop having tantrums. Like, I do empathize for him. I understand a lot of people are coming for him and trying to like find all the small vulnerabilities they possibly can with the actual interaction, and a lot of these he doesn't think are that serious, like the whole username thing. But this is definitely far from the best response you can make, and it gets even worse because just this morning he released another post about the whole situation. Ethical hacking for the good of the community? BS. My server logs are on fire. Hundreds of bots crawl my API endpoints all day. They abuse my support pretending to be customers. I fixed the ShipFast paywall. You can't get it for free. Sorry. I hired someone to help me full time and ensure no real vulnerability issues. Indie hacking became a witch hunt. Everyone's pointing out bugs to burn each other. Back to shipping. And I mean, first of all, not to nitpick, but he literally said in the email that a lot of people are sharing the code around for free anyway, so I guess technically people still can get it for free. But the bigger issue here is he calls indie hacking becoming a witch hunt, when in reality, I think this is the first time he's faced any real amount of criticism for what he's sort of doing. I don't think any of this would have ever happened if he just made the template open source, but the fact that he's charging $200 for this, the fact that it's literally the cornerstone of his brand, who he is and how he brands himself online, to come out and say that people are pointing out bugs to burn each other is sort of insane. I mean, if you're consistently making that much money off the product, I don't see why it wasn't a priority earlier on in the process to hire somebody to maybe look into at least the people saying there's vulnerabilities in the application, and having at least a small dedicated team to fixing the product and making it better over time, instead of just moving on to the next product and the next product and the next product. And then to make matters worse, when people do point it out, you either don't respond or you go on Twitter and throw a tantrum about it. This isn't a witch hunt. This is people like, hey, people paid good money because they trusted the brand and they trusted what you were promoting, and you're not taking any of these concerns seriously at all. In fact, if anything, the reaction to this would make me worried if I was a ShipFast customer. Of course, in the comments, you have some bots saying things like, "We're so back, great move, man. Better take a break from Twitter," to which Marc Liu says, "Logging off from my massage now." But again, most people are starting to understand that a lot of what's going on here is not really great at all. Particularly, I really like what this guy said. 1, ship fast. 2, break things. 3, fix it when it breaks. I don't get why he won't just admit that something went wrong. It's so easy for him to say, "I get it, I'm fixing it. The new version is going to be way better and more secure." His responses come off as super defensive and also dismissive and just hand wavy that these issues are even a big deal in the first place. And I really don't understand where the whole indie hacker mentality went wrong. Like, I've been indie hacking and failing at it since like 2017. And back then when I started, it was all about just trying to make stuff that people wanted. And the best way to know if people wanted something was to ship fast. And that's sort of where the idea of shipping fast came from. It was getting something in front of the user, seeing if they enjoyed it or not, and if they did, building building around it, adding support for it, building into something great. The whole build in public community has just turned into this ugly zeitgeist where all that matters is shipping and making money, bro. If you're not making money, if you're not getting the sales and you're not shipping, you're just yapping, man. Like, I don't even know why you're on my timeline. I'm blocking you for that one. It's like, where did we go so wrong here? And to be clear, I'm not perfect. I probably would have made a bunch of the same mistakes Marc Liu made if I was making something like he did. I'm sure a lot of indie hackers would have. I know how hard indie hacking and I know how hard building a product and putting it in front of real users are. Like, I understand and I empathize with that. But I think if you're going to be making that much money and positioning yourself as I make all this money, it's probably worth it to hire at least 1 or 2 people to help out with the business so that you can actually cover these vulnerabilities. And 2, when people point them out, actually making like decent responses instead of things like this where you're just getting angry at the people who are trying to point these things out. Like, yeah, I get it. Some of these people might not have the best intentions in mind. Some of the people might want to see you fall, but that doesn't change the fact that there are real issues happening here that need to be just fixed. You don't always get to choose if you get put on a pedestal, and the community sort of chose to put him on a pedestal. I don't think he ever asked for a lot of this. So I understand it's probably pretty stressful to deal with all the shit that's just being flung in his direction, but it's also sort of the path I guess he chose to walk down when all his content became around how much money he made and telling people to just ship fast and not care about any security stuff. Now that the situation has just gone full circle, I think it's sort of like just a terrible situation for the customers, for Marc and everyone else involved, especially the actual indie hacking and build in public community, specifically when you have people like this sort of representing what the average zeitgeist of how people are thinking about building in public is right now and how far we've sort of fallen from building cool shit that people actually need. And yeah, I'm sure the situation is probably going to continue to develop. I'll keep my eyes on it and make sure I keep documenting it. So if you want to see another update, make sure you subscribe. Let me know what you guys think of the situation below. Is all this hate justified, or is he just getting witch hunted by people that are, quote, envious of him on Twitter? And I'll see you guys in the next video.